What's up, y'all? It's Pat Reacts. Well, you guys don't really know this, but I've been a gamer for a long time, in and out of different types of games, whether it be MMOs, first-person shooters, RPGs, puzzle games, phone games, whatever. I've played a ton of them. And I liked a lot of the things this guy said, which if you don't know who he is, it's Asmongold. Pretty well known if you play MMOs in general. He started out as a WoW content creator, and while he still plays WoW, he plays a lot of different games, and then he also makes reactionary content and gives opinions on a diverse amount of videos. So I saw some things in this video. I've already watched it one time, so this would be the second time that I've watched it, that I wanted to add on to or put asterisks on, because while he did do a pretty good job, I mean, it's a 20-minute video about pay to win. I think there are some things that, to me, I still really haven't heard anybody talk about to the same level or detail. And if we want change, if we want games to get better and not become mobile games, because that's what mobile games are, they're literally just like this. Requires no skill. All it is just who wants to spend more money on the game, which to me kind of takes the whole point out of playing a game. If you're just going to spend money on it, you might as well just do that in real life. Why even play a video game? So we're going to get into it. And I will try and only pause him when I have like something that I really want to add on to, because I have a feeling that this video is going to go really long. Far past 20 minutes, because I have a lot to say about this. Also, big fan of Asmongold, so I really like his content. I've watched it for quite some time. He seems like a pretty reasonable guy. Do not always agree with everything he says, and I don't think I'll agree with everything he says in this video, just off of memory, but he makes a lot of good points, and some that I want to add on to.
What's up, boys? Today I wanted to talk to you all about a very controversial topic, and that topic is pay to win. And we're going to be talking about it in the context of Western audiences and how pay to win has become more prevalent in Western games nowadays, and how the audience's reception to pay to win has changed over the years, why I think that is, and how we can use that as to plot some sort of a trajectory in the next 5 or 10 years of where these games are going to go. Now, pay to win for games in some degree or another has been around for the better part of 10 years, maybe even 10 years by this point. But I think that for the longest time, it's just been something that's existed in mobile games. It's been in, Raid Shadow Legends and these other types of mobile games with these arbitrary gating systems like energy stuff, etc., right? And you would have to spend real money to get these things. And I'm going to talk about how I think pay to win has managed to work its way into Western games, and how I think that audiences nowadays are actually more okay with it, much to the detriment of, I would say, an average gamer, and also I would say, in a grander scheme, the customer in general, the audience, the market in general. I don't think this is a good thing. And so I'd like to start off with looking at like what the context is behind what is pay to win. And I think the fact that pay to win has such a very, it doesn't really have a defined definition. You can't go into the dictionary and find one definition of pay to win and everybody agrees on it. So like, for example, you have games like World of Warcraft, who, in my opinion, I think this game's fucking pay to win as shit. Like, I went over, I bought WoW tokens, and I bought Mythic Raid gear, and then I put it on my main character, and now I'm better in PvP. It's rated PvP. Like, I don't know, I feel like it's obviously pay.
Yeah, the way I define pay to win is pretty simple. If you're paying for something and it gives you an advantage or allows you to stay with people that spend significantly larger amounts of time in the game, it's pay to win, man. It's that simple. So if you can buy gold with real money, like you can buy the currency that you use to buy things in the game with real money, it's pay to win. If you can buy gear, it's pay to win. If you can buy anything that gives you stats, a stat increase, or any kind of, advantage over another player by just spending real money, it's pay to win. The only time of monetization of any type, in my opinion, is okay in a game is if it is 100% cosmetic, which means you're just doing a fashion thing. We have that in real life. People buy and pay for expensive clothing or status symbols to show off their different levels of, how well they are, how much money they make, etc., kind of to lord it over other people. But it's not something that necessarily affects my life. If I run into a dude and he's wearing, a $10,000 outfit, I just don't care. Okay, it's cool, whatever. I don't think it necessarily looks any better than anything else. There's a lot of things you can spend for far less, So if you translate that to games, it's okay if people can buy to look better. But, imagine if back in the day on Call of Duty, which was the first game that I was truly 100%, I would say now, looking back at it, I was 100% addicted to that game. I played it all the time. I mean, I put so many hours, days upon days worth of playtime. And I got really good at the game, because I played and put in the work. And maybe I shouldn't have been doing that. And I should have been focusing on, well, let's say school or, friendships outside of that. I got addicted to Call of Duty and being the best player I could on that. And I was a really good player. I still am. I don't play them as much anymore, but I put in the work and time to be great. So imagine if Call of Duty had a system where it was you can just buy all the guns. You can buy an aimbot. You can buy people that will play with you that are insanely good. It takes the fun, it takes the competitive edge out of the game. And what's the point of playing a game if you don't feel like you earned it and did something? You don't get the progression, the journey. Imagine if you could just buy 10th prestige or 15th prestige on Call of Duty, which that was kind of your way to show off, and also to show off, how much of a no-life, greasy, ugly little kid you were, back in the day, voice crack and everything, but I'd get on Call of Duty, acne, whatever, it didn't matter. People don't know who you are. You could play, you were accepted based off of what you had to offer in the game, how good you were. People wanted to play with you if you were a really good player, if you were a consistently good player. And you wanted to play with people that were good at the game also. And when you played against somebody that was exceptionally good at the game on the other end, you might have raged at him, but there was a level of respect. Just like if you played a really good basketball player, having played basketball, for most of my younger life, all the way through high school and even past, there's a respect that you earn from actually putting the work in and being a good player, a solid player. You don't have to be the greatest or anything, but whenever you take that away, which is what pay to win does, aka Lost Ark, and just being able to buy gear, and your gear is what translates to stats, and stats are what translate to how much damage you take, how much damage you do, how much of a ability you have to make mistakes, etc. It's just no good, you know, and it ruins the whole point of having games. So that's my little rant on this right off the bat. I'm going to let him talk for a while and until he gets to some points that I wanted to talk about also.
Right? But there are people that think that it's not, because you can farm that stuff with gold. There's also other people that think that pay to win only occurs whenever you're able to obtain something that is only obtainable by spending real money. So it's like, you know, there's a sword that's better than every other sword in the game, and the only other way you can get it is by spending real money.
Yeah, if it gives stats increases.
On the other side of the spectrum, there's people that think that any cosmetic, even cosmetics reference and cosmetics are a fundamental of value in the game, and so adding value through cosmetics is adding value through giving people the win condition through having them. So what I'm saying is that pay to win has...
No, because, you know, I don't agree with him on this one, though. I don't think cosmetics, something that just visually makes you look cooler, is pay to win. Because you have to win. And I guess, like, okay, I guess I could see what he's saying is that, like, you know, your character looks cooler and everything than everybody else. So in a way, you're winning. But most of the time, you know, pay to win is like, are you being able to successfully compete against your peers, you know, like in PvP or doing raids or doing PvE content. And I don't think cosmetics have anything to do with that. But I guess on a social status, yes, you can pay to win socially. But I do think at some point you have to draw a line in the sand and say, what can a game developer, how do game developers make money and continue to make money? You know, like charging a membership service fee. I've never had an issue with that, because I do feel like as long as they're creating new content, as long as they're updating their game and listening to their player base, etc. You know, a great example of that is RuneScape. It's like freaking $7.99, $9.99, depends on how many months of membership you buy. So yeah, you know, if you play a whole year, spending $10, it's $120. But I mean, you get a lot of value for that compared to buying a game for $60 and playing it for 30 hours. And it's something that you keep, you know, forever, as long as you pay for your membership. And even after that, your account, you still can keep it. And so you can unsubscribe, not play for years, come back, resubscribe, keep playing. So I don't necessarily, you know, feel like that is something bad, because the company has to find a way to make money. And that's why I don't have an issue with cosmetics. But I do have an issue with time gating, gambling, characters, gacha games, you know, where there's certain characters that are just inherently so much better than every other character. And then they put all these different paywalls, you know, where the chances of you ever being able to obtain that as a free-to-play player is so insanely low and would take so insanely long that by the time you actually get there, they've already updated the game 15 times, and now you're still behind. You'll never catch up. You'll never be there with other people, even if you play the game more than other people, because they're simply just going to spend more money than you. That's when it becomes a problem, you know. That's why I hate freemium games. I think the only game I can think of off the top of my head that has ended up being semi-reasonable and I feel like you get good value and they don't just completely rip you off is, well, I'd say RuneScape. It's one of the few games that you can get on play free to play. It offers you a decent, like, significant portion of the game. It lets you taste what it's like. And then if you want to play like every area of the game and get into like the serious of it, you spend money. But they don't charge you money. There's no cosmetics in the game. There's nothing that costs money except for subscription. That's it. And technically they did offer where you can buy a token that allows people to buy it on the marketplace for in-game gold. And I think that really ruined RuneScape in the same way that it ruined WoW, because what he was talking about, WoW tokens, it's the same thing. So it means that if you just buy a ton of those tokens, you sell them, then you buy all the best gear in the game and you're done. But I think that's why, like a game like RuneScape, which WoW has not been able to do this because they're not in, we can get into that. They just aren't willing to innovate. The great thing about RuneScape, which is why I do generally think it's a great game, even with that, which I don't like that it has it in there, is because like they have like Iron Man mode where you can't buy anything on the marketplace. Anything you obtain is only yours. You can't, if another player that's not an Iron Man, well, they came out with Group Iron Man, but the basic principle of it is you can play the game and you don't use the marketplace. You're not allowed to, so anything you gain on your character is just what you got from working hard on it. And that's probably the biggest thing that pulls people back to RuneScape and keeps them playing. Iron Man is like super fun, but it takes a lot of time to play it. So as you get older, for me, I found it hard to continue to play because of how many hours you have to put into it. But I still love that the game's like that, and it keeps that, integrity. And that's why so many people love it, because it's like when you have an amazing Iron Man account or whatever, say what Settled did. Anybody who plays RuneScape knows Settled and Swampletics and all that. That was hype. It was an amazing journey to watch him do that. And he didn't pay to win. He just played the game. And put all these rules and restrictions on him that made it really interesting. And he did it in a way to show you that you don't need pay to win to have a good time on any game. And it really just inherently hurts the game. So
has such a broad definition for so many different kinds of people, it's very hard for people to stand united against any sort of real feature of pay to win, because it's just so
I do agree with
so
that.
amorphous. It's so there's no official definition of it. I think that's really what I'm trying to say.
I think we should officially define it then.
This is one reason why it started to happen, is that people who defend the games and people who are okay with these games can always find some point of difference and some other game that is popular that has some feature of pay to win as well. I think that whenever I was criticizing the Lost Ark pay to win features, people kept reminding me about World of Warcraft's pay to win features, and which I said, yes, you are very, very right about that too. But I think that in many cases people view it as a personal attack, and I think that also as especially MMO players, because let's be honest, okay, talking about pay to win in an MMO, this is sacrilegious, this is anathema, this is blasphemy, this is like sacrificing a goat to Satan in the middle of a church. This is the last thing that you want to do. And meanwhile, every single other game that comes out nowadays is somehow pay to win in one way or another. And why does this happen? I think that it happens because, and the turning point for this is, it happens because the games, people play them and they enjoy playing the games. It is literally that fucking simple to me. And I think the best example of this is whenever pay to win really, I think, made a very big inroad into Western audiences, which is Genshin Impact. When a previously thought impenetrable audience of pay to win players, or pay to win, non-pay to win players in the Western audiences, it's like, well, you can never sell a game at Genshin Impact over here, right? Nobody would ever buy it. Then it comes out, and this was off the heels of Breath of the Wild, which was very popular. People like that idea of open world exploration. The game was fluid, it played well, and I haven't really played it myself personally, but I've seen the way that it looks, and it does look visually appealing to a certain degree. And what ended up happening is you had millions of people spending millions of dollars on wishes here in America. Can you believe that?
And I would say something too is that I don't even think it happened with Genshin Impact, because it's like a lot of gamers, right, including myself, we like all sorts of games. So just because I'm an MMO player does not mean that, that's all I play. I've played so many mobile games like Clash of Clans. How long has that been out? And that's been pay to win for so long. And when you get to a certain point, it's like if you don't want to spend money on it, it just there's no point in playing the game anymore because everything takes so long to do. It's just there's no point. And that's one of the reasons I stopped playing mobile games, because that's what you always end up with. They're always a ripoff. They're always trying to take money from you. And we'll get to it in a minute, but I'm going to let him keep talking.
This is something that people thought would be impossible to do. And I would say 5 years before that, it would have never happened. But look, here it is, and it is happening. And I think that it's actually just as simple as people want a good game to play.
I think he's right there, but I also think it's been happening for a lot longer than he thinks it has. And it's no surprise that it's slowly finding its slimy, disgusting way into games, into AAA games, into actual console and PC gaming. It's no surprise that it's making its way into it. Because, yeah, I'll get into it in a bit.
And people will forgive and forget and make excuses for pay-to-win features because they are enjoying the game. And you can make all of the excuses and all of the rationalizations and everything else beyond it, but I think that it's actually just that simple. People are enjoying playing the game, and it's just as simple of, 2 columns, a positive and negative column, and there's more things in the positive column for them, and so they keep playing the game. I think also what's happened, and this is a bit of a generational thing, and I think it's coming, the generational effect is coming from both directions. So the first direction is from younger people. You have somebody right now, like let's say you're 21 years old. Well, if you're 21 years old, the odds are like you've never really lived. I mean, if you're in America here, I mean, hopefully I would at least think, you probably never lived without the internet. You don't remember what the Stone Ages were like. Where you had to call your friends on the phone and their mom would answer, and then you'd ask to see if Timmy was home so you could go play at the park. This is just...
And then she would be like, yeah, no, Timmy was a bad kid this week. He's grounded. He's not going to be ungrounded until 2 weeks from now on that Friday. And you're like, no, what am I going to do? Where am I going to find friendship and companionship? How am I going to survive without this guy for a whole 2 weeks? What did he do? Those were the days. Much simpler times.
It's not the way people do things anymore, and because of that, I think that many of those people don't necessarily understand exactly how much different it used to be whenever we were, like me, like people that are like, I'd say 30 and over, whenever we were gamers and we were kids in the 90s, there was no real pay to win or anything like that. Pay to win is renting the same video game twice from Blockbuster. So you see an audience of people who have been brought up and conditioned in a way to be more accepting of these types of features because they've grown up with them. Whereas for people my age, and I'm also going to talk about people my age becoming more okay with it as well, but first thing I want to talk about the young people is that people my age, we see this and we're like, man, like, why can't we just have another Super Mario World again? Why can't we just have let's have another Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time? Like, what is this shit, right? But you have a lot of people who they've grown up and this is all they've known is, oh yeah, you buy this from the microtransactions. So you're establishing a culture, you're establishing a precedent. And for younger people, they don't have any other frame of reference, so that's just what they accept as being okay. And I think that growing up, and that's always been okay, and that it is what it is. I think that's the way a lot of people see it. They've been conditioned to believe that. And then also, for older people, I think that it's literally this simple. And I think that for some people it is. Obviously, everybody is different, and my ideas don't necessarily affect an individual, but this is kind of what I'm assuming. And I'm basing this off of my fundamental belief that people will always advocate in their self-interest. And what I think is that there were the guys that were raiding in high school and college in Burning Crusade, Classic WoW, Wrath of the Lich King. Well, guess what? Now they're balding, gray-bearded, 35-year-old men. 35-year-old men that are, they've got a wife, kids, back. And you know what? They've also got a pretty good software engineering job, and they're making over $100,000 a year. And the kids that are 15 and 17 now that are kicking their ass in the video game, it pisses them off.
Yeah,
so
it does. It does piss me off,
the guys
man.
that grew up playing video games, They don't
You
really care too
exactly
much about
right.
pay to win as much anymore because now they can afford to pay to win. So back in the day, they couldn't afford to pay to win.
Those
They didn't like it.
traders.
Now people are older, they have the money, and you know what? Pay to win's not that bad. And I do know this is a very, very black pill take on it. This is a very, very I don't know, nihilistic perspective to have, but I think that it's true. I really do. I see people say this stuff all the time, and you know you can corroborate this with the amount of mobile game revenue that's being generated here in America. You're having every single soccer mom on the block playing Candy Crush and depositing tickets into that, depositing crystals, tokens, whatever the fuck you use in that game, and they're spending money like these, like it's crack. I mean, like, just so you guys understand, last year, I think this is 2021, I could be wrong about the year, but I'm not wrong about the numbers, mobile gaming revenue was more than console and PC gaming revenue combined. So these games are making bank. And this is...
Yep. Yep. And there's some pretty significant reasons why, which I think he's going to go over, and this is where I really
the facts, okay?
want to add my side into it.
Let me ask you a question. If somebody offers you $100 or $120, which one are you going to take? I think most people are going to take $120. And I think the more that you depersonalize that decision by, you know, extrapolating it to a group decision amongst people in general, the more that you have that $120 be the obvious option. So that's why I think that we're going to see a lot more pay-to-win games come out, because I think audiences have been softened up by the fact that they've grown up with features like this, and so this is either normalized for them, or you have people that are now older and have less time, and so they appreciate features like this because it allows them to keep up with people that they wouldn't be able to keep up with otherwise, because they just simply don't have, you know, they have other life responsibilities nowadays, and so they pay to win instead. And these are the people that talk about, oh, it's not pay to win, it's pay for convenience. It's like, bro, it's pay to win. But, you know, I think it's important to call it what it is, but it's also important to see why people feel this way.
God.
And I think the fact is that this is going to continue happening, and it's going to continue becoming more prevalent.
Here's the deal. This is where I don't necessarily disagree with Asmongold, but I think, let me...
And
I wanted to give him a better, you know, a better view, because this is so much better than the last one. Here's the deal. When he says that people are being softened up, what I think is the actual truth is that people have not softened up, but the companies that create these games have done the research, and they've reiterated and made new games, and then reiterated and made new games, and they have figured out where people's addictive tendencies are and how to manipulate their addiction into getting them to spend money on it. Okay? And it's basically a very nefarious thing that they're doing, because they're using the human brain and the science behind, like, impulse addiction and dopamine and all the different, you know, chemicals you get in your brain, and how when you have certain things, right, it makes you feel good, or you get a high off of it. And they implement these into the game, into where they make you feel like you're getting a good deal, like you're only paying a little bit of money, but you get so much for paying that money. And then the next time they offer you a little bit better deal, but now instead of it being $10, it's $20. And your jump in your mind is like, well, you know, $10, it's really not that big. I really like this game. It's fun. I've been having a lot of fun, but like, this would really help me out. You know, I could level up my characters. I could make my team stronger or whatever. And you're like, it's $20 more, but I'm getting like all this value for that $20 more. Like, compared to all these other deals they have on the marketplace, like, this one is by far the best. And they purposely put expensive stuff all over their marketplace because they know you're looking at it. And they bombard you with it. And they let you know when new deals come up on their marketplace. And then they go, whoa, look at this deal. And if you don't spend money for a while, they start trying to sweeten the deal. They start trying to, and there's a game that I was on, this is the last mobile game I've played. I think it's called Ace Defender. Do not play this game. It is 100% made to get as much money out of you as possible. It is a huge addiction trap, and it will manipulate you into taking your money and getting you to be unreasonable with why you're spending your money and how much money you're spending. And it creates this like sunken fallacy, weird thing in your brain where you truly think that, like, I mean, it started at $10 and then they convince you to spend 15, and then they convince you to spend $20 for this new pack. And then they can, but it's in small increments. So at first, you don't really, you're not really adding together how much money you're really spending. And then, lo and behold, 6, 7, 8 months down the road, and you add up all the different $10, $15, $20 purchases you've made, you spent hundreds upon thousands of dollars on a game. And the only way to keep up with the people in your clan, your guild mates on the leaderboards, all the events they run, Raid Shadow Legends is another great example of this. Like, to get a legendary hero, it's like a 2% probability or like a 1% probability when you roll to open like a crystal and get a new champion. So, and to be like one of the top tier players, you have to have 6 of those characters, and then you have to get a repeat of that character in order to level up their skills so that they have like the most amount of damage, the lowest amount of cooldowns, and then you only have a 1% chance of getting it. So you start to see how they implement all these systems to get you into it. They make the game well. The game is good. It looks good. It's fun to play. It is addictive. And the more addictive they make it, the more your addiction is going to tell you to spend money on it. And so what ends up happening is that you spend ludicrous amounts of money. Something that if somebody were to say to you, okay, I want you to spend $400 on this mobile game today, you would say, you are absolutely insane. I'm not going to do it. But if they chip away at you and then they offer you different deals, different incentives, different things, say, hey, spend $1.99 for this starter pack, then spend $5 for this new pack, then spend this, and then they put walls in place that you can't get past them, and you're like, do I really want to wait another day for my energy to restore, right? So they're constantly adding in these things, and it just fuels your addiction, because it's like, it is straight up an addiction, and they're preying on your addiction to get you to spend as much money. And there's no good thing about what they're doing. It's straight up immoral, unethical, and basically stealing money from people. And the biggest argument people use is, well, just have better impulse control. But, it's so much easier to say that. Like, tell that to somebody that's addicted to crack cocaine. Oh, just stop doing it. It's not that simple. And I do think these games are wildly addictive. They are. Like, it's just crazy. And I've had a hard time when I was younger walking away from them, even though I knew they were not good. I knew what they were doing to me. It was like I had this impulse to spend money, and I kept saying yes. And eventually I would get the self-control and say, like, Patrick, you cannot spend more money on this. You can't do it, bro. Like, what are you doing? But by then I had still spent more than like a AAA game, definitely more than $60. you know? So but they're doing it in a way that is totally just gross. It's wrong. And then they market it to young adults and kids. And so they get you addicted to it at an early age. Like he's saying, they soften up, and so as you grow, you make rationalizations in your mind as to why it's okay, like, etc. And so you just keep spending more and more money. But it's a straight up addiction, and they are basically just like they do with somebody who's addicted to alcohol, gambling, drugs of any type, sex. I mean, it doesn't matter. They are marketing it to make you want to do it again. And that does not completely take away the fact that you as a human need to see that and make changes in your life and say, not anymore. I refuse to do this anymore. But I still don't believe that preying on someone's weakness is a laudable or ethical thing to do. And I think a lot of these companies have just been looked away. And, I don't know what the solution is, but it's just crazy. So I think it is, they create addictive games. They create things that give you dopamine, that make you want to keep playing it. And then they feed on that addiction. They've done the research. They've done the studies. They have the user data. They know what works and doesn't. And they discard the things that don't work and don't get people to spend money. And they add more of the things that get people to spend more and more money, until eventually you have a game that, like Genshin Impact, people will get insanely addicted to and spend thousands of dollars before they finally rein it in, before they finally say, what am I doing? What have I done? It's like credit card addiction. It's the same thing, and it's crazy.
I think that, I mean, really, where is this going to go? Where are people going to go with this? I think that there's going to be even more social pressure to even engage in pay-to-win systems. Now, I only have a few real points of reference for this and data or information to back this up, but I do think that it's true, especially if you corroborate
I got my Baja Blast Asmongold.
It with the in general social pressure to keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with the latest social trends, making sure that you have an iPhone 6, because anybody that has an iPhone 5 nowadays is fucking poor. So what I've seen a lot of times, like remember back in Fortnite, kids would bully other kids for not having microtransaction skins in Fortnite. And I think this is going to become even more prevalent and even more common among a larger audience, because I already see this happen. If you guys ever see, go on Twitter, go on Reddit or something like that, and especially on Twitter, because Reddit's more of a crystallized or a more serious audience, and you're going to see, like there's a new microtransaction that X or Y company, let's just assume Blizzard, let's assume Blizzard announces, I don't know, a new store mount, and you're going to see all of these people that, they've got their profile picture of it, and it's of their character, or it's fan art of their character, and their name is like, Ashley Windrunner, and she simps for Sylvanas because she's actually crazy, and, this is the kind of person, and she's like, wow, this is so awesome, I don't have a lot of money this month, but I think I'm gonna have to buy this. And it's like, people make fun of the girl, and then she's like, well, guess what? I have the money, I'm not a broke bitch. And so people view it, and I think that you're going to see the introduction of this to happen more, is people are going to view status in video games as being able to afford certain types of microtransactions and having certain types of things in the game.
This has already been the case. Like I said, I dealt with a decent amount of mobile game addiction. I have a very addictive personality in general, and over the years I have mastered it and gotten a lot better, and then allowed it to come back into my life, just like a alcoholic would. Same thing. So, a perfect example is, this was in 2011, 2012. I played a mobile game called Kingdoms at War, and I helped run one of the largest pay to win clans in the game. And I spent, I think I did the math. I spent like $1,200 on this game over a year's time. So about almost $100 a month. Which, I mean, it's like $100. It doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, geez, $1,200? You're insane, Patrick. You are absolutely insane. And, you know, we used to be that way. You didn't get into our clan unless you were willing to spend the money. And if you ever fell off, you stopped spending money, we had passes. And us as admins, we would go through and we would post on their wall, you have 7 days since you've spent money, you know, because the way the game worked is, and the reason we were a pay to win clan was that we ran a gold farming like dungeon basically, and you had to use a seal at the beginning of the dungeon in order to enter it, and those seals cost real money. There was no way to get them for free. Or if there was, it was for a very short time at the very beginning of your account creation, and after that, no. So if you wanted to keep building your account, you had to play the same account. And so it was like $5 for a seal. And we came up with this whole idea of, if one person spends a seal, $5, right? And then you have 100, you could have 100 people in a clan. So we would have 100 people, and you would spend a seal. The raid or whatever it was called would last, depending on how many people you had hitting the boss and etc. You know, would last a good 20-30 minutes. But when you have 100 people all dropping seals, we would give them, like, when they dropped a seal, you would get a 3-day pass, and then you could stay in the clan for 3 days. After that, nope, you're out. If you didn't spend any more, we kicked you out automatically. And then we would just replace you with new people. And people entered and left constantly. We had players in there that every month were spending thousands and thousands of dollars. And this was in 2010 to like 2012 or somewhere around that area. Maybe it was a little bit later than that. But that just goes to show you, this was almost 10 years ago. And people were willing to do it then. And this is in the United States of America. So to think that it hasn't been a problem for a long time and that people aren't majorly addicted, because when you think about it, why would you spend that kind of money on a virtual game that creates no value in your life besides what you're doing in game? It's ludicrous. And eventually the lifetime of that game, the life expectancy of the game is over. You spent, you know, the top player in that game, he spent, I would say, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they would have their events, you know, and you would get like really good gear and stuff that there was no way else to get. And these dudes would well it out. And it would be thousands of dollars spent per event. And they might do an event every month or sometimes every 2 weeks. And they would get like some gear that wasn't even better than the war gear. But nobody else could ever get the gear. So it was like they created rarity by saying, you know, this is a one-time event. This gear, if you win the top, if you're the number one guy in the event, you get this gear that nobody will ever have again in the game. And these guys would spend money just upon money. And they would come into our clan because we would make them money so they could just keep doing it. So yeah, it's been going for a long time and it will continue to go. And it is a straight up addiction. It has only gotten better. They have only gotten more creative. They have only gotten more intelligent with how to create a game to play on your addictions and your addictive impulsive behavior. And unless somebody does something about it and regulates it, even though I don't necessarily like government intervention, I don't think the companies, I do agree with Asmongold in saying that I do not think the companies will never police themselves. They won't. So unless you have more awareness, and I don't even think humans will police themselves, because there will always be addicts, just like there's drug addicts. They don't say no. They continue to do it. You can't stop them. The only way is to like remove drugs from the picture, but how are you going to do that, you know?
In general, and this has always been the case, but what's different this time is that that status is not derived from effort or time invested in the game. It's derived from money invested or money spent in the game. And I think this is already happening. You're already seeing this, and you have more and more people now that actually it's weird. I think it's just so weird that people almost take pride in spending money on these types of things because they
Yeah, and we really did, you know. We talked crap about people that weren't willing to do it. And it's actually kind of crazy, you know. Again, this was almost 10 years ago, but I don't know what to say. I really don't have a defense for why we acted the way we did, but we did. And we were somebody that like looked down on people that weren't willing to spend that kind of money.
can do it. You know, they feel like they can, this is what they want to do with their money. And, you know, I mean, who am I to tell people what they can and can't do with their money, right? Do whatever the fuck you want. But I do think I can still have an opinion on it. I think it's dumb. But, you know, that's what they do. And so I think this is going to become more and more prevalent, and it's going to become more and more popular as, you know, those younger people who grew up with microtransactions and being conditioned to be okay with them.
Yep.
I think more of those people are going to be okay with it, and you're going to see those people getting older, and more of the Asmongolds of these people either getting really good software engineering jobs and being able to just buy the stuff anyway and feel better than the kids that can't fucking buy it, or you're going to see them move on. And, you know, like I have friends of mine who, you know, they were really, really against pay to win, and they fucking hated that shit. They played World of Warcraft back in the day, and now they're like a manager at like a big box store, and they have a wife and 3 kids, and so they just don't fucking play video games at all anymore. So that's what I think is going to happen a lot, and those people are going to remove themselves from the population in general, and so of video game players. So I think this is going to become more and more popular, and I'm very worried about this. And the reason why I'm worried about it, there's a lot of reasons why I'm worried about it. I think that
it's going to ruin gaming.
I'd like to see, you know, some degree of like legislation to limit the types of behaviors and the types of things like this that games can offer you. In my opinion, this is kind of like what I think. And let's use
that's kind of why, you know, that is kind of why Elden Ring and developers like that are so appreciated by gamers, because it's one of the few times now where you there's no such thing as pay to win, but most of those games that are like that are single player games. You know, find me one MMO that isn't trying to manipulate people into spending insane amounts of money on things that make their character better than other people's. It's pretty much almost non-existent nowadays. And it's why, you know, there's this thing right now of like, why can't we find a good MMO? And the simple fact of the matter is they don't make them anymore. Why would they make a good MMO that doesn't prey on you when they are allowed to prey on you with no consequences, and they make hundreds of millions of dollars off of preying on you because they know that they can make a good enough product to get you addicted to it for, say, a month? How much money will you spend on it? You know? Like, I played Lost Ark for 3 weeks. I think I spent $60 on the game. So they win. And, you know, I realized pretty quick, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I spending this kind of money? And I stopped playing it. But I don't think that's something that a lot of people are willing and able to do until you get older and you have more control over yourself. And like for me, you know, I'm ADD. So if you're ADD, you're already going to be extremely impulsive, you know, much more than your everyday human. So people like me and ADD people are can be extremely successful because of how our brains are constantly running and working and constantly thinking, and we're going 1,000 miles per minute. There's a lot of jobs that you can become very successful in being that way. I think a lot of people think it's just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to pay attention. I'm just going to lose all of my attention, and I'll just be spacey headed and stuff. That's not how it is. It's that we're too hyperactive. We're too much into doing things and being places and experiencing things, and we're extremely impulsive, and impulsivity is what drives a lot of these games. I think they're catered to people that they try and make you as impulsive as possible. So if you have bad impulse control, which is based off of your frontal lobe cortex, which is the thing I think that takes the longest to develop, and most people don't develop it until they're 25 or later in life. I'm 30. It's taken me, and I did start to get a lot better at all of this after 25. I would say about 27 is when I really started to realize what am I doing. But for almost 10 years, they got me. So that's a lot of money to be made off of somebody for 10 years, till they wisen up. And I definitely think it's manipulative. They're preying on you. And yeah, I'm going to use strong words like that. It is on the same level as any other type of individual that preys on somebody that is weaker than they are, It's super bad. It's really disgusting. And I think there should be a culture shift away from it. And maybe we do have to make laws to stop it, because I don't think it's going to be stopped otherwise. I mean, it's clear they're continuing to do it, and they're bringing it into more and more games on mobile. Go find me a mobile game that doesn't have microtransactions that are built in to try and get you to spend more money to, like, say, play more games, energy systems. There isn't any of them out there anymore. They're all made to make you try to spend more money because of your addiction, to feed your addiction. And you're just like, $5 today, that's all I have to spend to be able to play for an hour or two more. All right, that's not a big deal. 30 days in, $5 a day, you spend a lot of money.
Lost Ark as an example, is that I think that if Lost Ark, let's say because in Belgium and the Netherlands, you can't play Lost Ark because according to Belgium and the Netherlands rules and their laws, Lost Ark is an illegal game because it simulates gambling. Well, my opinion is that if Western games and Western audiences, I'm talking like Canada, America, Australia, and even more European countries, had similar laws that prevented you from playing games like this, the fact is that those games simply would not exist, because Western and American audiences are just so massive that they would have to change the game and change the paradigm of how you pay money in order to.
And let me make it clear too, is that I don't necessarily think that gambling in all forms is bad, but when you are making a monetary profit off of gambling, it's not good anymore. Like it is inherently evil. Playing Dungeons and Dragons and trying to roll, a 20-sided dice and hope that you hit it, that gives people the ability to experience like risk and not knowing what's going to happen, and that makes their experience better. But you're also not directly incentivizing people to, say, spend $5 every day to like somehow make their Dungeons and Dragons so just having dice and like gambling, I guess there's a difference between games of chance. No, I really don't. They're the same thing. The only difference is gambling, you're trying to like win money off of you gambling. So you're trying to win something off of it. But So they realized that that was an addictive thing, and they turned it into a way to monetize it to make money off of you. And that's when it becomes bad, because they're going off of something that is straight up just addiction. And it's a very slippery slope between when that's okay and when it's not. And I don't think, yeah, allowing kids and stuff to play a lot of these games is healthy for their brains. And it's not because it's the video game. I think video games have been proven to do a lot of good things for your brain. But, you know, there is a fine line where you are, you know, marketing this to a certain age group, knowing what it will do to them long term. And that's not good.
To appeal to making sure that those games were legally coherent and legally, they were following the law, right? And so I feel like I would love to see more legislation. And where do I really draw the line? Where do I think pay to win? Like I don't like any pay to win. Pay to win sucks. Like, yeah, sure. I've done pay to win stuff in Lost Ark. Same with WoW. I usually do it for content and, you know, just because it saves time, etc. And it's in the game. But I would prefer that none of this stuff existed. And where do I really see change happening? I see change happening on a legislation level. I see change happening on a actual, like, a forced level of, like, laws and things like this. Because I've said this many times, these companies, they will do whatever they can to make money, and people will always find a way to make an excuse for buying their products.
Yep.
People hate child labor, but they're still buying products
Yep.
from Apple. People hate, you know, child labor again, they're still buying products from Nike.
Yep.
You know, these things just keep happening, and they'll always find an excuse or a reason for it. And I don't think that you can really hold these companies accountable in any term of a boycott, or in any term of a like a consumer rights activism group or anything like that. I think that the only way that it can ever be actually moderated and controlled is on a legislative level, because I've tried everything else and it hasn't worked. And so where do I think that they should draw the line?
And the reason it doesn't work, which I think a lot of people are scared to say, is because of the addiction, the addictiveness of how they create the games, etc. You know, I do think people have self-control to an extent, but I also think there are things that are such a huge temptation to people that if they are exposed to them consistently, they will say yes. And there's so much science to back that, that to try and say that, you know, it's just fully on the individual, and there's nothing else that needs to be done, and they should just be smarter, etc. I think is stupid to say that at this point. It's just gross. Like, it's not true. There's huge issues right now that have not been reined in, not kept in check, not been, you know, nothing's been done to slow it down, stop it, etc. And it's only going to get worse. And I do agree with Asmon in saying that it will only get worse until something is done. And sadly, even though I hate having government intervention, I don't know. I really don't know another answer to it past that.
Where should be the first line to draw? I think it's very simple. I think that you should not be able to buy loot boxes. I think that loot boxes that you spend...
Oh yeah, loot boxes are straight up, so terrible. They're anything that is involving chance and you getting something out of it that, like, benefits you in game. So gacha games are the same way. Anything that doesn't 100% guarantee you that you are going to get this specific thing is ridiculous. It's 100% preying on an addiction. And I truly believe that behavioral science, if people were actually being realistic about it, would say, you know, that's what they're doing. It's not refutable.
Money, if you ever spend money in a game and then that money goes towards something that is not necessarily a direct outcome, so like for example you buy a box and then the box has a randomized chance to have different items in it, like an Overwatch box, excuse me, and just a traditional loot box. I think that these should be illegal. I think that they simulate gambling, and I don't think that they have. I think not only do they simulate gambling, but these games are also they're made to appeal to children and young people.
Yep.
And I think that using advertising and marketing that appeals to
Yep.
young people and then trying to engage them into a video game that simulates gambling, how is this different from
Yep.
flavored cigarettes? How is this different? I don't know. I feel like it's somehow even worse. And I'm just so tired of seeing this shit. And I think that, yes, you're right. Everybody should, like, I don't necessarily, I'll be honest, this might sound like an asshole thing, but I don't necessarily feel sorry for these people whenever they make stupid decisions like spending money on these games. But I don't think that it should happen either way. It's like, it's stupid to leave your car unlocked with a brand new PS5 in it in a bad side of town, in the middle of an empty parking lot, and then you come back the next day, PS5 is gone. Yeah, I think you're dumb for doing that, but I still think the guy who stole it should go to jail. And the way that
Yep. And so I agree with him on that. Whose fault is it that they spent all that money on a mobile game? It's Patrick's fault. Because I still made the decision. But it is also the developer's fault for creating that and knowing what it does. And there is 100% scientific backing to show that they know what they're doing. They have the numbers. They know what makes people click and buy. They are constantly using your data that you agree to when you accept their terms and conditions of any video game. They are constantly tracking what you're clicking on, what you're looking at, what you're doing. If you don't believe me, that's what Google Analytics, that's what all these different things, that's why they show you tailored ads now that tailor to what you are into, and they listen to what you're saying, which I know sounds crazy, but it's true. They'll listen to what you're saying, it reads what you type, it knows what you are into, and they're doing that on video games too. And I especially on mobile games, they are tracking what you're doing in these games. They're tracking who spends the most money, what they spend their money on, and then they take those trends and they create systems about that. And they may never say that, but that's what they're doing.
I feel about this is that I would love to see.
So it's not good either way. I don't think you can just say, okay, well, people still have a personal responsibility to figure out what they're doing and how they're manipulating you and stopping it. But it's also like, good luck convincing somebody that once they get addicted, good luck convincing them that at first they're not addicted, and then when they finally realize it, it's like, oh my God, too late. So it's a double-sided sword. I think it's human nature. They're not just going to quit doing it. But these companies are sure as hell not, because they're making buttloads of money.
More legislation about this. I'd like to see more.
And honestly, they're probably paying off politicians, etc., in a way to prevent legislation from coming forward that would stop any of this too. It's called lobbyists. And that one's a little bit like maybe not true. I don't have any proof of that, but I would be shocked when you're making that kind of money that you wouldn't try and at least get in a good place with some of these lawmakers, etc., congressmen, senators, politicians in general, and that way you can protect your business from getting stopped.
Tech-savvy senator or some person in a legislative office that's able to identify this and understand what the problem is and see how insidious it is. It's very worrying to see this happen, and I'm worried that it's going to get too far ahead of us and we're going to have even more games that become even more parasitic, and these games implement more gambling features that are more unhealthy towards audiences. And I do think that unless it's actually regulated, I think that there is no way a individual consumer, you can choose to, and I completely respect the idea that, I'm not going to buy this or that game based off of this or that reason because you have a moral thing or you just don't like it. More power to you to do that. But I don't think that's going to change the market. And I think that games like Genshin Impact, games like Lost Ark, games like World of Warcraft that have these obvious features that are simulating gambling, I think these features and the prevalence and the success of these games serves as direct evidence that boycotts and personal abstaining from something personally is just simply not working. And I think that we need some sort of advocacy on a legislative level for this.
Exactly, because you're basically creating gambling addicts. They're just not gamblers that go to the casino. They're gamblers that go onto a mobile game or a video game and they gamble away, $100 every week or two, to hopefully get like the, dude, Dragalia lost. I mean, we could just name so many of them. Raid Shadow Legends. They want the newest champ, and they give like an event where you now have a 5% chance to get your champ. So, but there's like 4 champs in the pool. So people will spend $100, buy all these crystals, open up the crystals, the shards, whatever, the eggs, whatever it is. And that's all it is. It's just teaching people to gamble. Like, it's the same thing as gambling. And the fact that people haven't caught on to it yet, I mean, just shows you how dumb some of these politicians are. It's like the fact that they haven't done anything about it. It's like, I don't know. That's your kids that you're allowing that to be done to. And it's right under your noses and you have no clue. You're just so oblivious. Maybe that's just parents in general. Maybe it's going to take until some of us get older and have kids to really, but I think it's going to have to come down to regulation and stuff, because I don't see phones becoming less used. And as long as there's a phone in a kid's hand, a teenager's hand, a young adult, they're going to download these apps and they're going to spend money on them, and they're going to become addicted and become addicted to like the gambling aspects of the games. And then that's going to be used to suck money out of them,
And I hope that it happens before it's too late and before more people get taken down that road. But again, I think people are dumb. They should be accountable for themselves, and they shouldn't take those decisions to begin with. But at the end of the day, at a certain point, you do have to protect dumb people from themselves. And I think that we're definitely down that road. And I really hope that I hope more people can wake up and see that, and we can actually look and see what's really going wrong. And I think also, if these things didn't exist and they were, for some reason illegal, I don't think that it's not like we wouldn't see video games anymore. We would just see better and more ethically designed video games. And it's not like these people would just close up shop. And if they did, and they can't make a game without simulating gambling, well, maybe that's probably for the best. So anyway, that's how I feel about pay to win. I think that it's going to become even more popular. I think that it's going to become even more prevalent. And I think the only thing that's going to slow it down is going to be actual legislation. I think that anything else besides that is just completely spitting in the wind. It will do literally nothing, and the people that enjoy it will laugh at you for being upset about it. So that's what I think, and I'd be really curious to hear what you guys think too. I know probably half the people at this point have already paused the video and have already written, "Holy shit, I think that's the government or one of these companies here to shut me down."
Oh my god. They're gonna get him, bro.
A lot of you guys have already paused the video halfway through to
they're
give
going
your
after him.
2 cents about
they're gonna
this
stop
in the
him.
comments. But if you haven't already, please go ahead and do it.
Let me get my tinfoil hat out
and see what they think, because as I said, this is my my interpretation of things after seeing them evolve and change, and I'd be curious to see what everybody else's is as well. So thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And what an ironic statement that this is going to be on the eve of tomorrow, which is going to be the release of the World of Warcraft mobile game. Oh boy.
Shocker. Shocker. It's, you know, it is what it is, dude. They're going to keep doing it. There's nothing that's stopping them from doing it. And until I honestly, I hate to agree and say, but I don't see it ever getting better until there are literal laws in the book that say you cannot do this to people. And until they do that, man, they're gonna keep making them. More and more companies are gonna keep doing it. These big box, names that were so prevalent with making great games at one point are all going to succumb to it because of how much money they can make off of, preying off of uh, gambling addictions, um, and the addictive nature that they create in the games. They incentivize you to spend money, to save you time, to um, help upgrade something, to you're like, hey, I make a decent amount of money, whatever, so you spend the money. And even if you don't, maybe you live with your parents, you don't have a lot of bills, so you still spend a lot of money on it. Maybe not as much as somebody that made 100 grand or something a year and can just drop ludicrous amounts of money on it, or millionaires, but they're definitely being preyed on too. So it goes to show you is that even people that are extremely successful have these same tendencies and can be preyed on in the same way as somebody who's, hasn't even had a job yet. So it is not indicative of ruining somebody's life per se. Um, but it's definitely not good. I mean, I've gone on and on, do this video so long. I don't know if people actually watch it, but this is my reaction to Asmongold's video. I feel pretty deeply about it, and I've thought a lot about it. So that's why I decided to react to the video. I probably could have made a separate video and tried to remember all of his points that he made. But I'm not very good about remembering stuff like that, so I probably would have forgotten some of the stuff. Props to him for going 20 minutes and remembering all this. But yeah, appreciate Asmongold. That's my thoughts. If you care to listen, go ahead and do it. If not, comment down below and tell me, like, what do you guys think? Am I just out of my world insane? Does this not make sense? Am I just coping? But I don't think so. You're gonna have to come up with some really good arguments to convince me otherwise. If not, appreciate the support, the likes, subscribing, etc. I just now started doing this. And from one fellow gamer to another, don't get got, man. Be smarter. All right, peace.